Welcome everyone back to yet another episode of the Mates Rates podcast. I'm kicking off this episode with a story. I just thought it'd be a hashtag story time. So the other day, I went down to 7-Eleven just to get my weekly snacks, as you do while, you're just chilling out at home for most of the time, getting some snacks for the weekend, watch some movies. It's coming up to Halloween, so I'm stocking up, I'm being well prepared for the holidays. So as I rock up to 7-Eleven, there's a whole bunch of kids out the front, and that's kind of normal. I live in like a pretty family-friendly neighborhood, but they're all like rocking mullets. And straight away I was just like, oh, that's a bit weird. And as I walk in, like, again, I didn't really make any nothing crossed my mind is what I'm trying to say. Nothing crossed my mind when I saw these kids walk in. So I go in, and as I get to the snack aisle, there's another dude there, and we're both kind of eyeing off the snacks. And then all these kids just roll in, and they start yelling Eshays. Now, if you don't know what an Eshays is, then I don't know why you're really listening to this podcast. But an Eshays is basically just a kid with a mullet and sport shorts and like trainers and shit. I don't really know how to describe an Eshays. They're wearing bum bags. Chav is like the UK version of it. Anyways, so they're all rolling in and they yell Eshays. And in my mind, when people yell Eshays and they're an Eshays, I thought that was a meme. I've seen it in like just meme videos online of people making fun of Eshays and they're yelling out Eshays. Did not actually happen in real life. And for a split second, I thought the Matrix was breaking. I was like, this is memes happening in real life. And I kind of freaked out a bit. But as I yelled Eshays, the dude and I looked at each other and we both gave each other the eye contact of like, this is a meme happening in real life. And it was good. I'm glad that I found someone else in my neighborhood that can relate to me in such a tragic moment in my life. So anyways, get my snacks, I get out, and they're all there as well. And as I'm like walking home, they're all following me, and I was like, whatever, I'll cross the street. And they crossed the street as well. And for a split second, I wasn't worried, but for a split second, I was like, am I going to get robbed here in like broad daylight by these bunch of teenagers? So I just started thinking in my head, start planning out, what would happen if these kids would attempt to rob me? Would I punch them in the face? Would I just try and run? Like, what would I do in this scenario? But then I remembered, and again, I'm not trying to flex here, but I'm hood rich now. I live in a pretty nice suburb, and I remembered that you can't be rich and you can't be an Eshays in the same world. Like, these two things right here, growing up in a rich neighborhood and being an Eshays, do not exist. So I knew they were posers. They were just a bunch of fakes, and I felt pretty good after that. But it just boggled my mind because I live in a really nice area, median house price, it's like $3 million. It's fucking insane. And these kids obviously grew up in this neighborhood or, spent a good amount of life here. They're still living at home with their parents. And I'm like, how does this happen that they're like, is Eshays being gentrified now? That's what's happening with society? Like, and actually come to think of it, that's probably what's happening right now. You see that a lot with like rappers these days and people wanting to flex online and everything. They all come like that come up story from like rappers that, sold drugs to get to the studio and record their albums. Like, these were the things, the foundations that built the music that I grew up on. It's just like people that come from really hard lives and making something from themselves. But nowadays, it's like rappers get interviewed and they're like, oh, so what was it like growing up for you? And they're like, yeah, I don't know, pretty normal. Mum and dad, both in the picture, both had full-time jobs, couple of cars, went to a nice school. And it's just, yeah, that's what's happening right now. The street culture is being gentrified. So I don't know. I just found that like a pretty funny thing. And honestly, you can't be hard when you grow up in a life like that. You know, you've got everything for you. What do you have to prove? You don't have to like sell drugs for your parents. You don't have to be like a drug runner for your parents because they're not drug dealers. They're like lawyers. So you can't be hard and you can't grow up in a rich neighborhood. These things just don't exist. So anyways, I found that funny. I put it up on like my TikTok as like a story, and it was like pretty funny, like getting the comments from it. And I was thinking of like, fuck, wouldn't it be funny? It was like they're trying to build a crime of life and they're using like their parents' connections for it. You know, it's like, oh, I don't know. I don't know where I'm going with that, but in my head I was like, that's a pretty funny concept. The whole thing was a funny concept, honestly. And yeah, I don't know. Maybe it's like, maybe this whole thing is stemming off kids listening to rap now because rap's starting to become popular again. And they're just trying to adapt that life, you know? But they really can't relate. So they listen to like one Post Malone song and they're like, man, I'm gangster now. This is the life I'm going to choose. So yeah, I don't know. I just found that really funny. And yeah, you know, going into that is another thing as well I thought of. People that are trying to live the LA lifestyle, and there's probably people here in Australia doing it too. You know, the ones that get like the tiniest bit of taste of online success, and they're like, that's it. It's a wrap. I'm going to quit my job. I'm going to move to LA. I'm going to move into a mansion, and that's it. But what I'm wondering is, you know, well, this is mainly targeted towards rappers, like people in the rap field getting like a little bit of taste of fame and think they hit the big time, they're the next Jay-Z. If you see them online and they're flexing all this money, it's rich lifestyle, but come on, we all know it's fake. But what I want to know is, are y'all getting evicted right now because of COVID? You know, like you can't play shows, you can't meet up. There's a lot of things that you can't do. So you're getting evicted and having to go back to your job. That's another thing I've been thinking of. So I feel like this current situation is going to be humbling a lot of people. And what I said is probably going to piss off a lot of people, but where's the lie? That's what I want to know. Where's the lie? So yeah, I don't know. I know I've said I don't know a million times because I am so reliant when it comes to coming up with ideas, whether it be for this podcast, for my YouTube content, or even for like short films and TV shows that I'm writing. I'm so reliant on the outside world. And obviously right now I'm not getting that. So it's definitely been a bit of a struggle. But, you know, I'm just kind of waiting out for it. And hopefully in the next like couple of weeks, I'll be able to go out more and do more things, and it'll kind of spark those things in my brain to do. And my question is to everyone out there, do you guys feel the same way? You probably all want to go out and see people for a vast majority of reasons, but if you're a creative, do you rely on those things as well? I'm interested to know. So because of that, I'm just kind of stuck to seeing what's happening online in the internet world. And don't get me wrong, I love it. You know, I've been obsessed with YouTube ever since it came out. And yeah, I don't know. I'm kind of torn between it because I've been obsessed with YouTube ever since it came out, and like social media. I've just been fascinated by it. But the effort to post things and be really in it is kind of like a struggle, because I feel like you're not really fighting with your content, you're fighting with the algorithm. So you're constantly trying to please like the algorithm, and it takes away from like your own personal content. So that's what I'm kind of struggling with the most because I don't want to do that. You know, with this podcast, I'm treating it like a job. Right now it's Tuesday. I upload it on Wednesday. I record. So I spend a week trying to come up with notes from news articles or things that I see online that I think are interesting and funny to talk about, and consolidate them into a half hour of power on this podcast. And I treat it like a job because it's like film it, record it Tuesday and film it, upload Wednesday, and then rinse and repeat. But again, when it comes to actually the content itself, it's been a fucking drag, honestly. But hopefully, again, things open up soon and I can start being funny again. That'd be great. But in the meantime, I'm just watching too much TV. And I'm not really a huge fan of traditional media because who the fuck, like, why would you waste your time? You know, like, ads are the most annoying thing in the world. And yeah, the ads online, but you can skip past them. It's the beauty of it. When ad breaks come on TV, they go on forever. And especially when I was on tour in America, holy shit, it was so painful to watch a movie. I remember I'd sit down with the guys to watch a movie, and an hour and a half movie goes for 3 hours because there were so many ad breaks. And I never thought I'd be happy to be back in Australia for the ad breaks, but I was. But regardless, traditional media, there's just too many commercials, and it's really annoying. I can't really talk shit too much because those commercials are the reason why I have a fucking job. Those things are paying my bills, but it's the truth. Ads are annoying in traditional media, but at least online you can just get past them. So what I'm getting at is there's only one show that I watch, and I don't think I mentioned this on the last podcast that I did with Caitlin. If you tuned into that, thank you very much. I had a lot of fun with that one. We only watch The Block. It's the only TV show to watch, and come to think of it, it's just that's crazy. You know, all the TV channels and all the shows on, and we just watch one show. And the reason why I like it, it's cool. It's like people building houses. They're doing something productive. It's better than The Bachelor or those dating reality shows. No offense if you watch those. If you do, that's sick. But yeah, for us, we watch The Block and we love it. But this season in particular, I don't know what the fuck happened. I think they just fired everyone that's under 30 in the post-production team. I know of some people that work in the production team. I know that they're, well, we're in our late 20s now. Holy fuck. It's also my birthday on Saturday. That's crazy. I'm turning 29. So yeah, we're all in our late 20s. But they probably fired everyone under the age of 30 in the post-production world because it is so fucking cringy. I feel like it's just people, middle-aged people asking their kids what they think is popular. Actually, they're probably not even asking their kids what's popular. They're probably just thinking, oh, my kids think this is popular, and then implementing that in the show. They have these graphics. They try to do the SpongeBob thing where it's 2 minutes later, but the voice that they put on is this really annoying high-pitched voice. And I'm like, why would you not just imitate the SpongeBob thing? Everyone does it. It's a universal thing. Just do that. So even, I don't know if you heard the crow right now, but the crow in the background probably agrees with me. So, yeah, all I'm saying is if you are listening to this podcast and you're on the Block post-production team, please rehire everyone that's young and make it better. Yeah, I just can't handle it. It's making the show really unbearable to watch, but at the same time, I'm kind of here for it. No, actually, what is making the show unbearable is the producers trying to constantly bring up conflict. And I get it. That's what a producer does on these reality shows. They're trying to bring up talking points and shock factors and values that people tune into for higher ratings. I get that, but they're building fucking houses. What? There's not much drama going on. Honestly, again, if you hear the crow in the background, it can agree with me. Is it a crow or is it a magpie? Either way, I'm not going outside because they're probably going to fucking swoop me. So, one funny thought that I had, and again, I'm really sorry if you are tuning into this and you don't watch The Block and you don't care. One thing I do find funny is the 2 female contestants are both teachers. And you could tell that one's the really cool teacher that everyone loves to get, and one of them is the bitch. And the real bitchy girl that I know is the worst teacher ever. She just reminds me of my history teacher that I had in high school, and she was the worst. She, like, already history. Who the fuck cares about history? But more importantly, with my history teacher in particular, she made class so unbearable. I just didn't want to do the assignment. So I got to the point where I just started plagiarizing all of my podcasts. Yeah, that's what I do. I plagiarize podcasts. No. Started plagiarizing all my assignments, just copy and pasting them the day before and printing them, getting a 0. I didn't really care. And yeah, same thing with exams as well. I just didn't care. I don't know why I'm trying to make it look like the most painful thing ever. I only had history for like 1 or 2 years, but she made that hell. And this girl on the block reminds me exactly of that. And the other teacher is the complete opposite. It's like the teacher that he was keen to get, and you're really keen to get stuck into assignments, and well, probably not heaps keen to get stuck in assignments, but they're basically like the other girl is like the teacher that basically spoon feeds you the answers. Remember that in high school where you're like struggling and you're like, oh miss, I don't know the answer to this, and then they were like kind of explain it to you, and you kept prodding them to explain more, like you're like, oh I still don't get it, I still don't understand. Those are the real MVPs of the teaching world, honestly. I think I've got a couple of teacher mates, so I hope they're like that. But anyways, they reminded me of that, and the show itself is, it's just something to do at night. So, yeah. And that's the story about how I watched The Block. Thanks for tuning in for another episode. Just kidding, we got better content to talk about. So, from that, as well as watching The Block at night, because it's the only thing I look forward to at night time, because we still can't really do anything here in Melbourne. During the day when I don't have any work on, I've just been consuming heaps of podcasts. And to be honest, I really don't have much work going on at all because my industry is shut down still. And it's not that depressing. It's chill. We're coming back soon, okay? Honestly, shout out to all of like my people in my industry that are doing it hard, but we'll come out soon. So during the day, I've just been consuming lots of podcasts, and it's been cool. I just feel like I'm getting my social interactions, that social serotonin that everyone's after. And I do watch No Jumper. If you don't know No Jumper, Adam 22, he interviews like a lot of rappers, and now he's kind of spanned out to like internet personas, and it's cool. It's just like another way to fill the time. They have like a weekly show actually called the No Jumper Show, where Adam, 2 of his mates, they sit down and just talk shit for a couple of hours, and I find that the most entertaining rather than like interviewing rappers and stuff, because all the rappers now, again, going back to my original point, it's just they're all the same, except for a few of them that he's interviewed that are like hard motherfuckers. You're like, oh, okay, yeah, you're from the streets, so yeah, you get that pass, the poser pass. That's what I'm going to call it from now on. But if you don't watch his podcast, he's had a couple of times where people have walked out on the podcast. Honestly, actually, I just had this wild idea that the No Jumper podcast, some of them honestly reminds me of Jerry Springer as a kid, because like people just lose their shit. He's had like some wild stuff happen with some of his interviews. I highly recommend you go listen to him, only because he's like way more popular than me, so his shit's gonna be good. But he recently interviewed Black China. Black China is like she's a rapper, makeup artist, whole bunch of shit, right? She's got like 20 million followers on Instagram. Like, she's a big deal. She recently went on the No Jumper podcast and walked off within 20 minutes. At the 18-minute mark, she dipped. She straight up just left. And it's fascinating to me that people like her are so huge and they're so popular, but they're fucking terrible on podcasts. So basically, she didn't walk off for any reason. Like, in my eyes, there was nothing that Adam was saying that provoked her to be like, "Ooh, that's a bit hectic, and then leave. He was just, honestly, go watch that podcast if you want to have a crash course lesson of what not to do during an interview or a podcast or any of those things. You could tell. So Adam's been doing it for years, and he's a seasonal a seasoned interviewer. And he knows exactly what he's doing. And she was giving him nothing. He was like, "Oh, I see you doing this. Tell me more about that." Like trying to have like conversation starters, because during a podcast, if you're new to the podcast world, I'm doing it solo, so it might be not difficult to explain, but whatever. What happens when you have two people on? So you ask open-ended questions, and then you just bounce back and forth, and it's just like a casual conversation rather than like a formal interview where you only have like 10 minutes to get all the answers. So she just kind of kept giving him like yes and no answers. And he's like, you could tell there was this one point in the interview where he like turns around and looks around, and he's like for help, like, can someone fucking help me, give me more answers out of her? And then she starts going, "Oh, you're weird." And he's like, "Oh, why is that? Because you said the toilet was dirty or something like that?" And she goes, "No, you're just weird." And he's like, "Okay." And he keeps trying to go over the interview. And then she's like, "You know what? I'm out. I'm going to go." And she's dips. And that blows my mind that people that are so huge, have massive followings, are so wildly unprepared when it comes to things like podcasts, you know? I don't know if she has like a personal vendetta against him and she wanted to act all cool, but yeah, there's like, you probably need media training for that. But for me, if you agreed to go onto a podcast, you should know what you're getting yourself into. That's just basic 101. I don't know. I saw it and it just blew my mind, and kind of reminded me of this podcast. And yes, like the early episodes as if we've had like fucking 100 of them. But when we started out, there were guests being interviewed, and I might bring other people on in the future. That's definitely the plan once I'm allowed to. I'd love to like get more people involved in it, but I would only keep it with friends, people that I know personally that I can ask questions about to keep the conversation rolling and no dead air. And that Black China podcast interview is the perfect example of that. So there you go. That's my little rant for that. Moving on to the last YouTube video I did. If you didn't watch it, you can go to my YouTube channel. I've now got a custom URL. Pretty hyped on that. youtube.com/WarwickHughes. Subtle plug. And my recent video was something completely different. I am different from my sketch videos where it kind of started out as like with a sketch video. My plan for the video was to react to TikTok business entrepreneurs and just like that kind of self-help guru life coach world. But then like I landed on Tony Robbins, and go watch it because I explain it further in there. But I basically started going on about how I started off like a few years ago, went through like a motivational phase. I was hooked on Tony Robbins, and I watched his documentary, but then like I realized while I was researching for the video that the dude's a massive fucking scam artist. Like he's ran all these scams and has robbed people of thousands and thousands of dollars, and it was just like really messy. I was like, oh my God, I can make a video about this, and I did that. So bit of like a roll of the dice. But if you have checked it out, thank you so much. Really do appreciate it. I'm not sure if I'll do more videos of them in the future, but if I do, keep an eye out for that shit. But it just blew my mind in general why or how self-help gurus and life coaches are a thing. And I'm going to definitely rustle feathers here because I bet you there's people out there that really do love that shit. But I really don't understand. In my mind, I just see it as like, just go to therapy if you really need it, because all they're doing, like a life coach and a self-help guru, they're just like yes people, really, and they're just kind of gassing you up. And I think that's really toxic. I just feel like people need a reality check instead. Again, gonna rustle feathers with that, but so be it. But honestly, it's just my opinion. If you fuck with that, cool, but I don't. So simple as that. But what I will say It's thank fuck for incognito tabs. So while I was researching for that video, I just brought up heaps of incognito tabs to research it because I just didn't want to fuck with my YouTube algorithm. When I mentioned that in the video, you watch one video about like passive income or something like that, then all of a sudden all these like life coaches and self-help gurus and business people just come flooding in your feed, and it's just really frustrating how one like simple search can throw off your whole algorithm. So yeah, again, if you haven't checked it out, that'd be tight. If not, then cool, I guess. Anyways, moving on. We're at like the 25-minute mark. I should probably get started into wrapping up this soon. Actually, if you wanna dip now, you can. I'm not forcing you here, but the next territory we're getting into politics, but not what you think. So while Kayla and I are recording our podcast, big thing happened. Trump got COVID. We found out after we recorded that episode. And yeah, fucking wild, right? But not really surprising. So yeah, I'm surprised I'm not surprised it didn't kill him because he has all of like the health care in the world related to him. But it has been funny seeing Trump post-COVID because he's just high as fuck and just pumped with drugs. So coming this close to the election, it's going to be really interesting to see what else plays out while he's still pumped with this many drugs in his system just to keep him alive. But I found it funny because when he returned, he made this epic video on Twitter. He probably posted on other social media as well, but I saw it on Twitter of like this epic like Marvel movie trailer kind of thing of him coming off Air Force One. Or not Air Force One. Is it Air Force One? No, Air Force One's the plane. I don't know what the helicopter is. Anyways, he comes off it and he walks across the lawn of the White House and he goes up and he takes off his mask. When he took off his mask, though, you could tell he was like struggling to breathe. Like that was pretty funny to watch, as if he was like cured and all of a sudden like miraculously better. Again, going off like he's just pumped with drugs, so he's just confident as hell because he's really fucking high. So anyways, I found that funny because it was like this really over-the-top thing of him just returning from hospital, right? And it reminded me when I got really sick as a kid and I was in hospital for a while, story for another time. But it just reminded me of the contrast of when he got out of hospital, when I got out of hospital. He got a helicopter and like all this epic stuff. My mum wheeled me down the ramp to the end of the car park, and she said, by the way, I'm like 10 or something at this point in my life. She's like, wait here, I'm getting the car. So she gets the car and I'm just sitting in the car park by myself in a wheelchair, just freshly out of hospital. And I'm pumped with drugs. I didn't know what the fuck was going on. Who knows? This story could be fake because I was pumped with drugs. And she pulls up, and then the reason why she did that is because she didn't want to wheel me through the whole car park to put me in the car and then bring the wheelchair back. So, smart move from my mum. But yeah, Trump got this massive movie trailer, and you know what I got? I got a fucking Happy Meal that I think I threw up later because I was just still so sick. So, I don't know. I just found that funny, like the harsh contrast of what it would be like to actually be discharged from hospital, because that's a reality. So, and I wasted a whole summer. I actually got sick during the summer, and because I was a kid, summer holidays, missed all of it, and I got better I think I missed like the first 2 weeks of school as I was still recovering. Then I went back to school and just wasted a whole summer. So, this whole lockdown thing, I've done it before, no brag or anything, but no, this is definitely different. So anyways, I just kind of wanted to like wrap up with that. I'm sorry if this episode's been a bit short and a bit kind of all over the place. I know I said that I haven't really had much work on, but this week actually has been a bit hectic. I do have like a final note that I kind of want to that I have in regards of politics. First and foremost, which is the most important in serious politic land, Kevin Rudd has launched a royal commission against the Murdoch media, which is huge. They have had a monopoly on the press for a very long time, and they have swayed elections and all this type of stuff. I'm not really an expert when it comes to politics, but I've been following a lot of these things closely, and it's true. Like the Murdoch press, if you look at the magazines from when Labor was in party to Liberal, you could tell they were just trying to kick Labor out, and even when Liberal fuck up, they're like, nah, that's sweet, you get a free pass. So Kevin Rudd has put in a Royal Commission for media fairness and diversity in this country. If you have a moment, please go sign it. It is very, very important for the landscape of politics in this country. So just go on Kevin Rudd's page. He's been posting about it everywhere. Highly recommend you should go and sign up before it's too late. I think it ends on like the 5th of November, something like that, for the petition. So please, it's really important. But the final note, which is a kind of a funny one, we'll end on a high, guys and gals, and whatever you identify as. Shout out to all of the people out there in the world. I love politics perception on what middle class is, and I was just talking to Caitlin about this before I jumped in on this podcast. But it is funny because we just had like our 2020 budget from the Liberal Party, and it's shit, obviously, just more money being ripped from public sectors. Again, I'm not getting political with it, but it is really frustrating. Anyways, the funny bit is politicians must think that we're all good. They must think that everyone in their late 20s must be on at least 90 grand a year, because their perception of it is just so messed up. And they've done it in the past before where they're like, oh, it's so easy to buy a house. And like, they just make it as if you can just walk down the street and just buy any house that you want in like 2 seconds flat. Definitely not the case. But then when they got slammed for it and they backtracked it and they said, oh, you should just borrow money from your parents for the deposit, which is just, again, just ridiculous. But anyways, I just found that really funny, which is kind of what I want to end on. Don't let these dinosaurs kind of, I don't know. It is really frustrating when you see it, when you see that kind of stuff unfold, but it doesn't matter what money you're earning. I earn enough to keep the roof over my head and food on the table, and that's all I give a fuck about. So again, it's just ridiculous how much politicians think that we're all earning like 6 figures by the age of 30. Anyways, guys, I'm going to wrap it up there. Again, this one has been a super short one. I've got my timer up. It's only been 32 minutes, which is crazy because I think like most of my podcasts go for longer than that, like, at least 40 minutes or so. But you don't want to hear one dude, one mic. Again, thank you so much for checking out my latest video. If you did, it's over at youtube.com/WarwickHughes. If you want to check out my sketch content, if you liked this podcast on the Mates Rates podcast, give it a like and comment and subscribe on YouTube if you ever feel so graciously wonderful for doing that. If you do that, I could get you a gift sometime. Don't know when, but I'll get you a gift. That helps the podcast out, just reach to more people. If you rate it 5 stars on iTunes as well. And honestly, if you just hear just for the love as well, doing those things is free. But if you don't want to, that's fine as well. I'm just happy just to sit here with my group of mates having a yarn on a Wednesday, because this comes out every Wednesday. So keep an eye out for more episodes. And again, thanks so much for tuning in, and I'll see you guys next week. Peace.